Hi, I'm Bri,
And I'm Catie.
and this is Mellow Movie Reviews, where we just talk mellowly about Is mellowly a word?
Unclear.
I just want to start out the podcast with a little movie news that I found interesting, and I don't know if you'll find it interesting, but either way, it will be fun.
Mellowly is a word. Just looked it up.
Oh, well, here we go, mellowlying away.
Here we go.
Okay, have you seen Doctor Strange?
Unfortunately.
Okay. Ooh, tea. Okay. Um, so they are now filming Doctor Strange 2. The director of the movie recently stepped down because him
That's
and
such a
Marvel.
theme for Marvel, can I just say? Like, I feel like every new movie, they're like, oh, and then the director had to step down and all the writers quit. Like, what's wrong? Sorry, keep going.
No, I totally understand that. But he is stepping down as the director because of Marvel. I
Oh,
tried
God,
watching Doctor
baby.
Strange the other day and I fell asleep. I don't know if I'll return to it, but I just thought
You
that was
should.
interesting
There's
news.
no point. I can tell you what happens. It's every fucking hero's journey. It's exactly like every other origin, except more a cultural appropriation.
Okay. All right. Maybe I won't check it out. Sorry, Marvel. Okay. So we aren't gonna see Doctor Strange 2. Maybe. I don't know. Okay. So the second thing I found interesting, because everyone is going on about the Oscar nominations. We can get into later, but not right now. Daniel Radcliffe has a movie coming out in February.
Wait, seriously?
Yes, and it's an
Where'd that Harry Potter man go?
Yeah, I'm excited. It's an action comedy film.
He does so well in comedy.
I agree. I
I
actually
enjoy
haven't
him in a comedy role.
I haven't seen him in a comedy role.
We should watch oh crap, I can't remember the name of it, but it's like Castaway, but instead of Wilson being a tennis ball, it's a dead body.
Oh, okay.
And it's him and then the brother from Little Miss Sunshine who like wanted to join the Air Force but couldn't because he was colorblind.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I should check that out. But
I've not seen it, but I hear it's fun. I've seen him in other comedy things. I just am struggling. Oh, I saw him in How to Succeed in Business.
and that was good.
Yeah, that musical that he was in. That like randomly happened when I went to do my overnight at Oneonta when I went to college there.
Was that the movie? Was that this? No, that wasn't with the horse.
No, my God, no.
You remember that happening and everyone like freaking out?
Listen, that was his version of what happened to Miley Cyrus for that hot second when she like did that thing with
It was the second
Rob.
one. It's like ingrained in my mind in the very back particles of my brain. That horse. Okay. So anyway, he's in a new action slash comedy film. It's coming out in February called Guns Akimbo.
Oh, Guns Akimbo.
Yes.
That's a thing in the
Oh,
military, I think. Don't
okay.
know why. I could ask my dad, but don't feel like getting up.
So that's cool that you know that because I didn't know that. So I have the plot description. I'm gonna read it out, and you tell
Okay.
me if it sounds lit or not.
Okay.
So I got this
To
summary
a
from
scale
Google.
of like 1 to 5 lit emojis.
Yes, one to
Okay.
five litness. Okay. Miles is a video game developer who inadvertently becomes the next participant in a real-life death match that streams online. While
Hmm.
Miles soon excels at running away from everything, that won't help him outlast Nyx, a killer at the top of her game.
Ooh.
It
Oh,
has
is
Ready
it?
Player One vibes.
Yeah, didn't see it, but I loved the book.
I couldn't get through the book, but I want to see this movie.
I'm giving this 4.5 lits. I want to see this movie.
I'm giving it a 4 because I'm not really a video game lady. and I know you are.
Yeah.
So let's just see how it is.
Here's the thing, like, best case scenario, we get to watch like a funny sci-fi version of like what The Witcher is now. Worst case scenario, I just sit there and make fun of Daniel Radcliffe for 90 minutes. It's great.
Or we just laugh. I saw an interview with Daniel Radcliffe and J.K. Rowling, and I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago. And
he's like a lovely person. I don't mean to sound like I'm shitting on Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, no. That's what I was going to say. He seems like such a stand-up guy.
Yeah.
I really like him. I didn't know how he seems very personable, and he talked about like his struggles growing up as like a child star. Obviously, I mean, he did Harry Potter for 10 years. Like, imagine doing Harry Potter from like 10 to 20. Like, how I don't know how he did it, but he was great. Do you want to start?
Yeah, let's do it.
Discussion.
Let's fight.
Okay. Catie and I are going to fight. Okay. So today we are going to discuss Little Women. It came out in 2019. So we are recording in 2020 right now.
Oh shit.
It was directed and written by Greta Gerwig. And it is an adaptation of the book Little Women that came out in 1868 by Louisa May
Alcott.
Yeah. And oh no. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna name all of the stars, and I'm not gonna mess up their names. Can I do it?
We definitely just looked them up, so we didn't do this.
Yes. Okay. Saoirse Ronan.
Crushed it.
As Jo. And we have Emma Watson as Meg. Florence Pugh as Amy. Eliza Scanlon as Beth.
Scanlon?
Sorry. I'm sorry, Eliza. You were wonderful, but yes.
I could also be wrong.
And then we have Mama Laura Dern.
My mom.
As Miss March. Or Marmee. And then we have Timothée Chalamet as Laurie. And also, I gotta mention, she had a few parts, but we gotta mention Meryl Streep.
We do.
The sass queen Auntie March.
Apparently she bought Wendy's for everyone while they were filming that scene in the carriage.
Why weren't we like, since they filmed everything in Massachusetts.
In Concord. Why didn't we go?
Why weren't we on the set? Why weren't we?
We're so behind the ball on this.
Like, why did... And, Timothée Chalamet, I follow him on Instagram, and he was taking an Insta story of him in Harvard, and I was like, why is Timothy rolling around Harvard last year in, like, October? And I'm like, oh, yeah, because I didn't know that then, but, yeah.
I mean, I feel like they probably kept it under pretty tight wraps because it was, like, a lot of famous people.
They filmed a scene in the Emerson Theater.
Just kidding. Just kidding.
They literally filmed a scene in it when, yeah. Anyway, so do you have any history with, like, Little Women? Like, what is your history with it before you saw the movie?
I mean, I saw the old Little Women with, oh my God, Kirsten Dunst and, why could I not think of her name? Winona Ryder. Mm-hmm. Which I was a big fan of. Love that movie. I think it's great. Did not spend a lot of time comparing it to this movie, though, because I feel like they're totally different animals, and it's unjust to compare them.
Cool.
Never read the book. No idea. I've actually never read any of those books that people who are English majors are supposed to have read, like Pride and Prejudice or all those fancy European books.
You don't have to.
No, I know you don't have to, but like, I also never read any books in college. I just used SparkNotes.
Oh.
Take the degree back.
There you go.
That's actually a lie. I did read a lot of this stuff in college. It just got really intense in grad school.
Yes, I totally concede that. So my history, I never saw the first movie.
Check it out.
Yeah, I want to. And I literally only know about the. I only was excited about this movie because, yeah.
Do you know who Laurie is in the old movie?
Who?
Christian Bale.
Oh goodness!
You have to watch it. His accent.
I won't unsee
amazing.
Batman. I will not unsee Batman.
It's so crazy because he's like 16. I'm sure he's like 20, but he looks 16.
My gosh, maybe I should. Oh wow, what a guy.
It's so good.
Well, the only reason I knew that this movie was coming out is because I keep track of Timothée Chalamet's filmography.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
And I saw Little Women, and then everyone, not everyone, but friends were like, you need to watch the trailer, you are going to cry. And I watched the trailer and I cried. I think Timothée is a great actor, and I'm really enjoying his come up. But I came out of this movie loving, Ronan, Saoirse Ronan even more, and Florence Pugh even more, and for me it was just so wonderful. And I read the book, and I didn't like the book as much as the movie. Usually
I found literature from that time period very dry.
Yeah, it was good in the beginning. Halfway I was really into it, and then it kind of dropped interest in me. There are a few. I really liked I really liked the Laurie and Amy scenes when they were away in Paris. In the book, I thought those were really well done.
I have thoughts about that I will save for later.
Okay. And I then watched the movie and loved it again a second time, but now I really want to watch the one with Winona Ryder.
I think it's on Netflix. You definitely have to watch it. It's a good time.
Okay. So can we just do like spoilers? Like, this movie has been out. Like,
obviously we're going to talk about everything.
Okay.
It's a movie review podcast. You know what you came for.
Yes. There will be spoilers. So, Catie, I myself, this is one of my favorite movies of the decade.
Oh gosh. I'm so sorry for everything I'm going to say. That's actually not true. That's so harsh.
No, this is why we're doing this. Like, I need someone to disagree. Like, I need it. What do you feel like generally?
Okay, generally I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was a good movie. I don't think I didn't think it was a shitty movie by any means. Yes. I think it reminded me a lot of the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, which is the best period movie, and I will not be fought on that.
I cried a lot in that.
What?
I cried a lot in that. Pilar had to stop the movie, so I cried.
I know. I was there.
We couldn't finish it. Okay.
Oh, we couldn't. Anyway, cinematography, gorgeous. Costumes, stunning. Acting, amazing. Mm-hmm. Writing, strong.
Okay.
All the parts of it that make a good movie are there. I just felt that there were parts that were, I don't really know how to explain it. Let's just start talking about it and then I'll fight you.
Do we want to do what we enjoyed first or what we disliked first?
I feel start with enjoys.
Okay. Can I start with the?
Go.
So I thought that every shot in this movie was done with so much care.
Oh my god, it was a stunning movie to watch.
It was beautiful. The scene where Amy and Laurie, when Amy's in her art studio,
mm-hmm.
that like that set piece, and then you can see outside when the guy with the carriage comes out, and it's like a little picture like that. I thought that was like lovely.
That's the thing I really walked away with this movie from, is I can't really recall scenes as far as like what happened, but like you just described that scene and I vividly remember what that looked like played out. Like that part where Joe and Lori are like having that confrontation on the hill with that white steel church in the background in the middle of fall. That was like the most quintessential Massachusetts scene I've ever seen in my life, and it was gorgeous.
Yes, I was so happy. That's also like I have like 3 shots that I remember the most. That was also one of my favorite parts. So you see all like the foliage. It just reminds. Well, me and Catie are both from Massachusetts. So that shot, I was like, I could literally be there. We should have been there.
We should have been there. We can go visit her house, Louisa May Alcott's house. We could do like a literary Lizzie Borden trip.
I think that would be great.
Or we just go back to Lizzie Borden's house.
Just go back to Lizzie Borden.
Go back.
We can talk about that later. We should definitely review the Lizzie Borden Lifetime movie.
Oh my god.
Because that movie
is our Halloween series. We should just review a bunch of Lizzie Borden movies.
That movie is insane. It's so good. So another shot that I loved, it's short, but when they're on the beach.
I loved all the cinematography on the beach.
The kites, just
the kites.
They were living their best Martha's Vineyard life.
Oh my god, I totally forgot that was Martha's Vineyard. I assumed it was Cape Cod.
I don't think it is.
Probably Cape Cod though then.
Maybe. I just put like Martha's Vineyard. I just thought of it as that. In the book, they go to Longmeadow.
Ew, what?
I don't know if it's like...
Sorry, Longmeadow. I have no feelings about your town, but that just is so random.
Yeah, Longmeadow, but I'm not sure if that was like Longmeadow, Massachusetts, but they do have like a day out.
Where else would they go? Because like they're in Massachusetts.
Yeah, so I don't know, that scene, it just looks so beautiful. So like the cinematography, picturesque, like I want to paint everything, every single scene in this movie, even like when Auntie March is sleeping with the dog on her like lap. I want to paint just for fun. It was just beautifully shot. And then the costumes I thought were...
Oh my god. Here we go. Now you're talking. Those fucking costumes. Listen. I love a period piece for the costumes, and I get so bothered when I watch a period piece and the costumes are either like way too modernized or like way too authentic, and this was like the perfect mix of both of them. It was like super authentic, but they were in like fun colors, and like Emma Watson's wedding dress in that one scene with all the flowers.
So precious.
I was like sobbing.
Was so cute. I
had no investment in her relationship with that man at all, but that dress was gorgeous.
It was beautiful. I loved the one scene I really did like with Emma Watson. She's wearing that really pretty purple dress.
Yep.
Then she puts on that really pretty pink dress, but it's kind of ugly.
Oh yeah.
But like she still looks beautiful, but like Lori's like, this isn't you.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that part, but the costuming was wonderful. I loved the difference. Amy when she was little, and then when she goes to Paris, you can see that costume change, the period time change. You know what I mean?
Really good subtle costuming cues when they changed the different times.
Yeah.
And I also loved that she used her cinematography as a cue for like when they were in the present and when they were in the past, because when they're in the past, it was all golden tones, but when they were in the present, it was desaturated.
And dull, right?
Yeah. Like,
Wow,
you can
I didn't
tell.
even
Like, I
notice
didn't catch on till like halfway through the movie, but it definitely is there.
I didn't even notice that.
Watch it again. I'm right.
Um, I want to talk about acting performances because I think Florence
Cute.
did an amazing job being a little child and then being a young woman.
She has the range.
She has the range.
Oh my God.
I realized that range when I thought it was so okay. So when her and Aunt March, they are in a carriage and she's so proper, just sitting there, and she sees Lori, and she just becomes that child again that you
Yep.
see, from like the past 7 years ago, and you see that in her face, like lighten up. And I just loved how excited she was because I was taken aback. I said, oh, I thought she would be like more mellow if she saw this young man walking in Paris. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, and especially like even if you compare her like not what am I trying to say? Like not the changes within one state. Like compare her tantrum over the like limes to when she has that like fight with Lori in the garden where she like confesses her love of him. Like when she's a kid, it's a tantrum. But then like when she grows up, you see that she's now like has tamed all this power and is like in control of it. And the way that she's able to like act that out is insane.
Yes, it blew my mind. I didn't really know the story at all. So I thought that Joe and Lori were gonna end up together.
Everyone.
And I was so happy that him and Amy ended up together. It just made sense. And I
A
think
lot of
that
people in the literary world, this is like a big fight. Like fucking Jacob and Edward have nothing on who Lori should have ended up with.
what?
Oh yeah, no, it's a thing.
Wait, repeat that. I'm confused.
Sorry. People like fight over whether Joe should have ended up with Lori or whether Lori should have ended up with Amy. That's like huge discourse.
Okay, Amy, for sure. I don't know. Yeah, no. And the chemistry between all the girls was wonderful. I loved how they were talking over each other. I think
It
that
felt very genuine, that family relationship.
and as we are both only children,
Mm-hmm.
My friend sent me an article that A Little Women is fan fiction for the sisterless.
Pretty real. Sounds about right.
I felt that. I tried the second time to kind of isolate what each girl was saying, because at first it was just like woo woo woo, like Christmas morning, all of that.
Yeah.
But it was very genuine. It was just you could tell they were having so much fun, and I love when you can tell actors are having fun on the set and just vibing, and they're so comfortable with one another, just like lying on top of each other and braiding hair. It was wonderful. Just
There's
seeing
a lot of love on that set.
What? Sorry.
There's a lot of love on that set.
Yeah. And I wish we could have been there to enjoy that.
And hindsight is 2020.
Do you have a favorite scene at all?
I'm trying to remember. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I have not been back. I genuinely, honestly, probably just for the cinematography alone, that scene with Joe and Lori on the hill.
Okay.
Like, there are very few scenes in cinema that I have seen that have been shot that artfully. It's just such a beautiful composition, and it's very well acted as well. I mean, like,
so well acted.
Emotional moment.
I couldn't tell whether Joe wanted to or not.
That's part of one of the things I didn't like about this movie. It felt like it felt like for a very long time they were trying to make it seem like Joe was into Lori, and I felt like the turn for her to say that she, even though I knew it was coming, it just felt like they hadn't set that up correctly. And like, again, I knew it was coming, but I felt like the turn for Lori to go to loving Amy was not, and I think partially that's because they kept jumping back and forth. So it kept cutting back and forth to those present day relationships with their past relationships. Because my main issue with that whole present and past jumping is that it totally fucks up Joe and her future husband, who I didn't fucking even bother to learn his name, and then Amy and Lori, because I feel like it makes sense if you put it chronologically, at least more towards the end. But like every single time they started to have a moment with Lori and Amy, then they would cut back to a scene with Lori and Joe. And I understand, like, especially the ice skating scene, it was like meant to show us how Amy like always tagged along because she was in love with Lori. But like that scene felt more like a scene about Joe and Lori and not a scene about Amy and Lori.
So when I first watched the movie, that is how I felt. But then watching it the second time, it was perfect for me.
Maybe this is a watch it 2 times movie. Maybe I do have to see it again.
Like when Amy says, "I'm Amy," and just smiles up at Lori, you know?
Yeah.
You know that part? And when she is outside of his window, and when she puts her foot in the, she's like, "I'm making a paper mache for
him a cast of my foot."
I don't know. I think just the second.
Can you even imagine doing that? Can you imagine if we like made a cast of our foot and gave it to like any of the guys we thirsted after in high school?
Yeah, like Amy with the foot thing. And I don't know, the second time around, I got it. I felt that Joe and Lori had more of a friend relationship. I didn't see any romance, especially when there's this part where Joe gives Lori a ring.
Yep.
And he is like, "Oh my God, she's in love with me, yay!" But she just kind of gives it to him, just like, here, whatever. You know, there's no sentiment behind that. I could see it, and I think that happened in my second watch, but not so much in my first watch because I was really rooting for Joe and Lori, and then Amy and Lori was a nice surprise. And the second watch, since I knew what was happening, I kind of saw the subtle cues between both of the sisters' relationships with him.
I think that's part of the beauty of this movie, is that it's a movie of subtleties. And I think like over many viewings of the movie, you could watch this 1,000 times and pick apart 1,000 different things, and it would be a new time. Like you would see it differently every time you watched it. That's all I had to say about that. I don't know where I was going with that.
Okay. Well, one of my favorite scenes, we were talking about it before, that really tugged at my heartstrings, is when Beth goes over to...
I was just about to say that I changed my favorite scene to what you're about to say. Go, continue.
Yes, so Mr. Lawrence allows Beth to play on his piano, and he just sits there and...
sits down.
That scene... Like, we didn't really get much of Mr. Lawrence, but just that scene told me everything.
The like 2 or 3 scenes between him and Beth were so, like, they got you to commit to that relationship so heavily, even though they were on screen for, like, maybe 20 minutes total together.
Maybe even less, like 10 minutes, you know, when he says, "Oh, I hear there's a that scene. Oh, I hear there's a musician," and Beth steps forward, and she's like, "Hi," and then after they finish their conversation, she like steps back again. Like, you don't have to step back, sweetie, but like. She's just so shy.
Oh my God.
Uh,
And then he has to be walked into the house after she dies. I
it just made Beth's death a lot sadder. His
And the
just
fact that she had like become another daughter for him after he'd already lost his own, and that he had to lose a daughter again.
and at a young age,
Yeah,
just
I mean, everything about Beth's death
it's
hurts.
very sad. Since I never saw the movie before, I thought Mr. Lawrence was like a big bad man that made Laurie study or something,
Yeah.
but that was not the case at all.
They made him a little more tender in this movie. Because
Okay.
I feel like I can't remember exactly, it has been a while since I've seen it, but I feel like in the other movie, he was harsh, but then like soft with Beth.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I feel like this guy was like just kind of a curmudgeon-y old man who then just started being social. I don't know how I'm trying to say this. Like I never felt like he was an asshole, you know what I mean?
Yes. He was very sweet the whole time.
Exactly.
You know what was funny as hell?
What?
When Mr. Brooke is teaching Mr. Brooks?
I don't remember. I don't care.
Teaching Laurie, and Laurie's just like standing on the chair watching the girls.
Listen, as a teacher, I can 100% confirm that has happened in my classroom before.
It was just so like I knew what he was doing. It took no effort. It wasn't like a crazy funny scene. He was just like, there are girls outside, so I'm looking, and I don't know. It was just such a boy thing to do. And him just standing with his on the chair with his leg up on the back of the chair, just that like I could paint that. I wish I could paint that. There are a lot of silly moments. I didn't expect to like giggle out loud.
That. And it's like it's a young cast, and I feel like they let them be a young cast, which is why you get those little silly moments. Mm-hmm. And I felt like when they were acting as kids, they were just being themselves, as opposed to someone wrote this as an adult for an adult who was playing a child.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
I also Aunt March, so funny. When Mr. Lawrence and Timothy both offer their hands to dance at Meg's wedding.
Oh my God.
He's like, leave me alone. You guys are trash.
I have better things to do.
And I really not enjoyed Beth's death. Was very sad. And I
understand what you meant. Like, they did a very beautiful job with like depicting the grief with that.
Yes, and the contrasting scenes where Joe goes down the stairs the first time and Beth's there and eating, and then when she goes down the second time and you see when Laura Dern starts visibly like shaking and crying, that's what got me.
See, those were times, and that other one where they were at the beach, where like she's at the beach by herself, but then she's back and Beth is asking her to read a story. Like, those were times where I felt like that back and forth switch, beautiful, loved it. It was great. Other times, I really wish they would have just stuck chronologically.
Okay. I get that.
I guess I just wish there was more. Like, I feel like it was a lot of switching back before. And then when Beth died, there was a good chunk of it that was just in the present. And then it just went to switching a lot back and forth again. And then it was boop.
Yeah. That was actually one of my complaints about the film.
The complaints.
Yes.
Let's do it. Also, just like FYI, because I'm an elderly woman, but I do have to like go at 8 or like 8:30 at the latest.
All right, that's fine.
Okay.
So can I just mention one more thing?
Yeah, definitely.
Another scene that I loved. When Joe and Miss March are upstairs and Joe says, do you think Lori would ask me to marry him again?
Mm.
And Miss March says, like, are you in love with him?
Oh, I thought that was wonderful.
Joe says, I'm just lonely, and that resonated.
That was such a real feeling.
I broke down. I said, oh my gosh, no, Laura fitting the truth. Because I think we can all kind of relate to that. I have a funny example I can share. Can I share?
You can.
So in college, there was this boy who really, really liked me. And I kind of saw him as just a friend or whatever. And then he kind of became his own person, wasn't chasing after me because I kind of friend zoned him. And then I was like, wait.
Care for that term.
I wish I kind of took a chance with him. But then I sat back. Did I actually like him, or was I just lonely? And the answer was I was lonely. And I don't know, that was such a realistic, that part in the script was just so realistic. And I
had a relatable, similar moment when I was watching Grace and Frankie, and one of the daughters.
Grace and Frankie. My mom watches it.
My mom does too. It's such a mom show. I've watched very little of it, but the Brianna, I think is her name, actually, the blonde one, she like is really, really sick of dating, and she's like, I just want to come home to someone who's excited to see me and wants to cuddle. And then she's like, oh my God, I just want a dog. And I was like, that's fucking real.
Yeah. I get loneliness is it's hard because like you like being alone, but at the same time you want someone, but you want to be in love with that person, and it's
This is gonna turn into therapy real fast.
We're gonna rewind it back. I just really love that scene. I'm gonna talk about my complaints that kind of resonate with you, Katie.
Okay.
When I first saw the film, I was a bit confused about the jumps of the 7 years later, 7 years back.
Yep. Pointless.
Because they looked the same. I thought the girls looked the same. You know?
There should have been better visual cues.
That's it. Like, because Amy was in Paris.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and then I think maybe 30 minutes in, I was like, oh, okay, I get the gist. But I wish it was done a little clearer.
And I think, like, as beautiful and artistic a movie it is, I do think sometimes, for the sake of artistry, some of the clarity of the storytelling was sacrificed.
Can you explain why? Or, like, just point?
Like, exactly what you just said. That, like, I think to make the movie, like, as beautiful and subtle and delicate as it is, they had to do a lot of that back and forth cutting that for someone who didn't already know the story, it would make it more confusing.
Okay, yeah, I was a bit confused.
Like, it's not your usual, like, you know, your Freytag pyramid with the, like, exposition, rising action, climax, whatever, because that's all happening all at once the whole time.
I think I was most confused when Joe was living in New York.
Yes.
I
think they should have started there.
Sorry?
I didn't think they should have started there.
I think they should have started the Christmas morning, maybe. I don't know. I think it would have worked. I love a good flashback.
Mm-hmm.
I wish there were fewer in the movie, but I think there could have been very key points where flashbacks could have been important, but it was it jumbled a little bit. It wasn't, since it's one of my favorite movies of the decade, so this is a very minor thing, but I do wish it was more cohesive and fluid.
And that's the thing, like, the fluidity of it is frustrating for me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I love a flashback. I love starting in medias res, but, like, you gotta give me some
Sorry, my mom's calling.
continuity. Oh, Dell.
Call her Beth.
What up, Dell?
Yeah, so that that was a little confusing. Also,
Mm-hmm.
oh, the under the umbrella scene. There's kind of a it cuts between her talking to like the book editor and then
Yep.
her chasing after Mr. Bear.
Yep.
I thought that maybe her scene with Mr. Bear was just like an over exaggeration, or if that makes sense. Like
Here's the thing. And let's get back to that fucking jump cutting flashbacks. This is why I'm saying the jumping did the dirty on Lori and Amy and Joe and the guy, because they didn't flesh out Joe's relationship with that other guy because they spent so much time on like Joe and Lori's into her, but Joe's not into Lori, that they never introduced this other guy that she's in love with, but we've seen him in maybe 15 minutes of the movie.
Right.
And the last time we saw him before he shows up at her house is he told her how shitty all her work was.
Mm-hmm.
And they never had a moment where they were like, oh, hey, sorry.
Yeah, I just wish I thought that was just like made up.
No.
At first. And then when at the end when which I love that Aunt Marsh gave Joe the house. Like,
oh my god, I thought that's an amazing ending.
Yeah, I thought that was great, but I didn't know if that scene was in the book or it actually happened. So that was a little confusing to me.
Yeah.
And I have one more last point. Now I feel bad for saying this.
No, don't do it.
Okay, I'm doing it. I love Laura Dern, okay?
Oh god.
I love Laura Dern.
Yeah, we all worship her.
I loved her in Star Wars. I loved her in Big Little Lies. But I felt her performance was lacking for some reason in this movie.
It did feel a little disingenuous.
Yes. And I don't think that that's her fault.
I feel like because like I don't know, I feel like the character of Marmee is just kind of like written off. Like she's supposed to be this very strong, very amazing woman, and like Laura Dern for sure did that. But like I feel like all they gave her was like, oh, I'm happy and I love my daughters and I'm caring for these poor people and now I'm going to save my husband who fought in the Civil War. There
were only two moments where I could feel her being Marmee, like when I wish they more with that.
Her reaction to that was the best acting she did that entire movie.
Sorry, can you say that again?
When Beth died, that scene where you were talking about, where Joe comes down the stairs and sees Marmee and she like starts sobbing, like that's how I imagine Laura Dern acting.
Yes.
The Laura Dern who was like bopping around the kitchen during Christmas, it felt a little bubblegum. You know what I mean?
Yes, and I like but the parts I liked that I wanted to see more of, I love that she was like, I'm kind of mad at you, husband, when she was kind of mad at her husband for leaving. Like, yeah. That was believable to me.
Yeah.
When she told Joe that she had a temper, that was believable to me.
That scene in the attic.
Yes, and the attic scene.
Heavy scenes with her.
Yes.
Like I feel like the light and fluffy stuff, they didn't bother putting any personality into it because they thought that she would just do it.
Yeah.
But like, you can't. There's only so much you can. I don't know. She's an amazing actress.
She is, and she was fine in this movie. I was just a bit. There are some scenes where it did seem a little disingenuous.
No one's perfect.
No one's perfect.
Not even Laura Dern.
Not even Laura Dern, but she. Overall, I like. Who's your favorite sissy?
Gonna have to go with Joe on this one.
I'm gonna have to go. I'm kind of with Beth.
I thought you were gonna say Amy.
I go between Amy and Beth, alternating days.
Meg is the worst.
Meg is
She's not the worst. She's just boring.
she just got married to
She just got married. I loved how they, like, because Emma Watson is such an outspoken feminist, they were like giving her shit for playing a character who like got married, and it's like as if that's not a choice a woman can make.
Doing that?
Yeah, no, there was like I saw an article somewhere where someone asked her a question and they basically made her justify how she felt about playing a character who's like got married instead of like becoming I don't know. Like she didn't have another option.
And like so annoying that
it was like they were basically saying, like, presenting it as if she like turned down going to medical school to marry this guy.
We'll need to learn how to separate the art from the artist.
Word. And I'm pretty sure she was just like, yeah, I mean, like, that's how she chose her happiness. So also it was the 1800s.
There's like no problem with like getting, I saw that, well, I knew she was going to get married to Mr. Brooke because he was like, yo, what up, Meg? But
getting her into a marriage can be a feminist decision.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did want the last scene I want to talk about.
Okay.
The silk scene.
Remind me.
They're in the it's such a small moment. Meg and her husband are in the kitchen and she bought that silk.
Oh my god. Oh.
And you can tell he is so upset, but he can't be mad. And that was great acting by him.
The restraint from both of them.
He was like, I'm sorry, I can't provide. Like, oh my god, that's
such a real feeling though, and I feel like how horrible does that feel that like you can't give the person you love nice things because you just can't.
Yeah, I thought that was done so well, and it was just, it kind of in a way explained their marriage in one scene. They only had like 3 scenes really together when they're married, the wedding, and then when they're at the dinner table and he's looking at his like checkbook, and then when she says, I sold the silk back to Sally.
Oh, that was so sweet. That reminded me of that Christmas story where like the lady sells all of her hair to buy her husband a chain for his pocket watch, and then the man sells a pocket watch to buy the combs for his wife's hair. That felt like one of those moments.
Yeah, it was sweet. Again, like there are little moments that have just stuck with me.
I think this movie should be called Little Moments because that's where the true shine in this movie is in the little moments.
Directed by Greta Gerwig.
Little Moments, directed by Greta Gerwig. Ooh, are we saying her name correctly?
I hope so.
I hope so too. I do really respect her as a person.
It is. I'm really excited to see what else she puts out. I really enjoyed Lady Bird.
Oh my god, I loved Lady Bird.
That movie was excellent.
Listen, if I'd seen that movie before I went away to college, that would have changed so many things.
That movie is so self-aware. It's
probably wouldn't have gone to college in fucking upstate New York.
Yeah. But yeah, I think we've kind of covered all the points. I really liked this movie a lot. It did have flaws, the pacing, but overall it was enjoyable. I really, really want my mom to see it really badly.
I've not seen it already. Dell, get on it.
Okay, you know what happened? You know what happened, Katie?
Is it your dad's fault?
No. It's both of their faults.
Oh.
Listen, I have told my mother when I came home from Christmas break, go see Little Women. I want to see Cats. They went to see Cats and walked out 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, they walked out.
Why didn't they sneak into Little Women?
I don't know. I feel like my dad would love that movie too, as well.
Okay, wait. I have one thing.
Okay.
That we did not cover.
Okay.
I feel like the hype of this movie ruined it for me.
Okay.
I feel like people hyped this movie up so fucking much that when I saw it, no matter what it was, I would have been disappointed.
I feel like I didn't experience the hype, even though I'm technically on film Twitter.
It just like, maybe that's just because fucking everyone I know, like, really had a lot of thoughts about this movie. I also have come to the decision that the reason I did not like it is because this movie is a character study. This movie is about relationships and character growth and like inner strength and all those like journeys and stuff that happens like within yourself. That's not my kind of movie. I am in a plot kind of bitch. I like need a story. It's gotta happen. I want those complexities. And I feel like this didn't have enough of a story to keep me engaged.
Okay, that's fair.
Like,
That is fair. I can see that. I enjoy character study.
and I think that's like me and Shaylee talk about this all the time. It's the same thing when I read books. I'm about a plot. I want to see those complex plots. But I feel like everyone else I know is all about the characters and not like I love characters. I like to talk about that clearly as we've been doing. But I just like I need you to watch The Witcher so we can talk about that plot because it's really good. It's a really good show. 10 out of 10. Would recommend to anyone.
I think what really got me invested in character is Harry Potter, and that kind of started my love for character.
That is fucking what got me into plot, how she shifted that from a fun story to like a very complex hero journey.
I'm reading the 5th book right now, and I literally am like, this is so depressing.
Oh my
Everything
God.
about this is the most depressing thing in the world. There are no happy moments.
No.
Anything else?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I just thought it was a beautiful movie.
It was beautiful.
Do you know what it reminded me of? It reminded me of that Marie Antoinette movie in that there's no plot, but it's beautiful to watch.
Okay.
The Marie Antoinette movie is kind of trash. It's a fun movie to watch. It's a good movie. I watch it all the time, but it's also like it's a Sofia Coppola movie, so.
I don't know. I'm a character girl. That's all. Amy and Beth are my babies, and yeah.
This is why Thor is our next episode, because I got a lot of thoughts about plot and the overall, and that relates to the overall arc of his character.
Well, I think his character is amazing in the first Thor, and we are going to stop this podcast right now. Thank you so much for listening. Our next podcast will be about all 3 Thor movies.
Yep, we're going to fight.
We're going to fight. Well, we didn't really fight at all. We were kind of cute, Katie.
That's true. We had a nice discourse.
We respect each other's opinions a lot, and I agree with you a lot of the time.
It's going to be really down and dirty when we do Thor, because I also used to read the comics.
I tried reading the comics. Okay, we'll talk about this later. Goodbye.
Goodbye. I love you.
Goodbye. I love you, Katie.
Oh, I'm so glad we're doing this.
No! Okay, I'm going to stop recording.
Okay.